Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Today we're going to be doing a Kabbalistic study. The book exactly is called A Practical Guide to Kabbalistic Symbolism by Gareth Knight. Now, as you can see, I am bathed in the color green, and green represents Venus. In this case, Venus is represented by the sphere called Netzach. And that's what today's study will be about, the sphere Netzach on the Tree of Life. Now, most people have a general understanding of what Netzach represents. Some people say Netzach or Venus represents the capacity to love, the capacity to appreciate beauty and art. Well, these things are true, but like everything metaphysical, the concept goes much deeper than anything on the surface. We see that the sphere of Netzach is known as victory. But see, this isn't any simple victory in warfare over another person or another army. This type of victory is something that is even more primal. This is a type of victory that touches us deeply below the ego level. The very same way that Gibra is more than just warfare and battle. Gibra has more to do with justice. Gibra has more to do with balance, with being able to see the work of art, take away what is unnecessary, right? Likewise, when it comes to Netzach or victory, we're dealing with the victory of overcoming the old. For example, this is the victory of human beings with an animal nature, overcoming that animal nature to achieve spiritual results. So this is why art and beauty can be associated with victory or with Netzach, because art and beauty is the result of a being of animal nature creating things that are divine. The victory of Netzach also has to do with, say, for example, wanting to create a work of art, but having to overcome writer's block, having to overcome confusion and doubt and laziness. We're talking about that kind of victory, the victory to press forward and to reach new levels that previously were unattainable. We're also going to get into that. That's on the level of Asaya, because as we know, when dealing with the Kabbalah, these Sephiroth have four aspects to them. We call those the four worlds. So on the lowest world, that's what we're dealing with, the beauty of victory. Now we also see that the two pillars on the Tree of Life can be split into the Hermetic Path or the Orphic Path. The Hermetic Path is usually aligned with Mercury or Hod. The Orphic Path is aligned with Venus or Netzach. And we see that the Hermetic Path stems from a word Hermes, who relates to a type of deity, a type of essence. Well, the Orphic Path stems from Orpheus, who we'll also learn a little bit about tonight as well. If you have a book called, what is it? Encyclopedia of Spirits by Judica Ills. You know, that book basically has all the deities in it that you've heard of, plus many more. So if you also look at Netzach, you'll see that the order of angels associated with that sphere are called the Elohim. They're also referred to as the gods, right? If you look into biblical lore, the Elohim means the gods, male and female. And what this has to do with, because you know, you think there are God forms and God names associated all up and down throughout the tree. But the Tree of Life itself is almost like a ladder, a diagram, or a chart that is designating what's going on between the lower levels of pure matter and the higher levels of pure consciousness. So what we find as ourselves, what we find as our individual incarnation, our human experience, that's taking place closer to the bottom of the tree. So since we're down here, we've got Malkuth, we've got Yesod, which represents the etheric plane. Malkuth is the physical plane. Yesod represents the etheric plane. Hod and Netzach, which we're reading about tonight, deal with the lower astral plane. Now, the lower astral plane is the final place that you'll see form. Okay, there's no form to be witnessed past the lower astral plane. So if you're astral projecting or anything like that and you're seeing stuff, you're probably not in the astral plane. The Elohim or the gods represent a function of the cosmos, and that function is to give us substance to create what we visualize out of. Think of it this way. So imagine if a higher entity was trying to contact us, the difficulty would be language. There would be a language barrier. The same way that if we were to try to contact our blood cells, right? If we were to try to have a intellectual conversation with the life in our blood cells, well, what's the difficulty? The difficulty is what language do we speak? Do blood cells have eyes? How do we communicate with these things? So, best case scenario, assuming that everything worked out, we'd have to work with something within their own language, right? We'd have to work with some type of symbolic system that they already understand. This is the same thing when working with psychology. You don't speak to people, you know, with just big words because that's what you want to do. You literally, when you talk to someone, you've got to listen to them first so that you can know their language. Then you have to speak their language. That's how you effectively communicate. So, in a way, if we were able to speak to lower life forms, smaller life forms, like blood cells, we'd have to find out the language and we'd have to communicate according to that language. We'd have to compress our data down to that level. Okay. So there's a connection between the lower life form and the higher life form. What happens in the middle is to the blood cells would be considered a spiritual experience. They would be communicating with God. So whatever language we come up with, that would be their image for God. So that context, that experience there is what the Elohim represent. This is why Netzach is the realm of the gods. Because in the same way, we're dealing with forces and intelligences that are way beyond our understanding. In our human everyday lives, we will not understand what these deities and entities that we interact with are. We cannot. We don't have the mechanics to understand them fully. But what we do have is a symbolic language that we can use to communicate back and forth. It isn't perfect, it isn't exact, but it works. So, what the Elohim represent, the reason that this sphere is associated with the gods is because the Elohim represent the substance that we create our communication with the divine out of. So we learn from mantra and yantra that if you meditate upon a yantra, you begin to tap into the essence behind the yantra. Well, that yantra represents a mechanic of the Elohim. That represents what the higher levels of Netzach is talking about. So I guess that information would only be for, you know, some of you guys who might be advanced, who might be, advanced in your study or practice of Kabbalah. But anyways, let's get back to what we're really here for, which is to read this chapter. So welcome, welcome, peace and greetings. Twilight Shaman of Lilith, peace, peace. Laya 369, peace. Pablo X69, wholeness and compassion. Sly, peace, peace. Society Ejects, good evening, bro. 711, welcome, welcome. Frank Monday, peace, peace. Dreamwise, good evening, bro. Frank Monday says Yasad isn't astral. Absolutely not. Kevin Wise, peace, peace. Frank Monday says Israel Gardi called Yasad the Astral Light. Yeah, and that is the name for it. But the astral plane starts at the level of Had and Yasad. Most people get this stuff very wrong. Dare I say, most all people get this stuff very wrong because they skip the etheric plane. Most people, everyone's talking about, oh, astral this and astral that. Nobody talks about the etheric plane. And because of that, I'm led to believe two choices. Number one, people don't know what they're talking about, which is true. Or two, this is something that people aren't sharing. I'm going to go with the first option. People don't know what they're talking about. You might accidentally tap into some astral stuff, but for the most part, people are not doing astral work. They're doing etheric work, which is just as valid, but you can't skip steps in this. This isn't like, you don't skip steps in this. This is literally a process of evolution. You don't skip steps. So the etheric plane is a whole plane in itself. The etheric plane is the link between the physical and the conscious mind with the abstract. You can't just jump into the abstract. There has to be some type of of lineage there. There has to be some type of trail to follow. There has to be some type of method. So yes, it is called the astral light, for lack of better words. Ophio calls it the same thing, but the etheric plane is animated by astral light. I mean, there's lots of information on this stuff. Lots of information. I'd suggest looking up, you know, most any of the books that I recommended. Why?
Nigga, right? You alright? I saw something like that. I got in. Where you going? Hey, you gotta go to one of these stores. You gotta go right here. So you gotta go to one of these stores. I'm like, yeah, go to the gas station. Yeah, the gas station stuff. Yeah. No hard feelings, right? No. No hard feelings, right?
Oh, no hard feelings.
No hard feelings, right? The door there is unlocked.
You don't have to know the code, do you?
No, I ain't got a code. You don't drive.
Yeah. All right. So, let's get started. Peace. Netzach 7, Friday. The color green. Also, as side information, if you have not read The Ladder of Lights, do yourself a favor and get this book. If you're serious about learning what Kabbalah is about, this is a must read. It's a must read. It's not an easy read. It can be, but it's a must read. Right alongside this right here, right? These two books are going to give you all the information you need to get a comprehensive understanding. These two combined with what we're actually reading today, right? So Ladder of Lights, Mystical Kabbalah, and A Practical Guide to Kabbalistic Symbolism. These three books are going to give you the comprehensive understanding of the subject matter. So today we start on chapter 13, which deals with Netzach. And Netzach is represented by Venus and also Friday. So no coincidence that today is the day that we go over this subject matter. Hecate, peace. Louis, peace. Omni Arlandria, peace. So look, on your way in, guys, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps the YouTube algorithm sort my content into the good pile, which is where my content belongs. All right. EVP drama free. Peace. Let me know about the volume, if the music is too loud or if the voice isn't coming through fully. Flip the camera around and we shall begin. Alicia, peace. Welcome. Twilight Sun Shaman of Lilith says, do you feel the cliff off has value still? I've been feeling simultaneously pulled and pushed on depending on my practice. If you don't understand the tree of life as it is regularly, then you're not going to understand the clip off. So there really is no point in studying the clip off unless you have a comprehensive understanding of the rest of the tree. The clip off, or any piece of the tree for that matter, is not something that that's used independently. Somehow it zoomed in with this camera. How the hell did I do that?